There doesn't seem to be a more worthwhile endeavor to dedicate your life to than to see what you are capable of. Dan Koe, The Art of Focus. First of all, without even reading the script, I wanna just draw back and thank Dan Koe from the bottom of my heart, because you showed me the importance of writing, even though the whole premise behind your philosophy is that writing should be for everybody. Ultimately, it is not for everybody. Everybody can benefit from it, but not everybody is meant to do it at the scale that you are doing it. I'm now 23 newsletters deep. Every week I published from around 1,000 to 2,000 words, and this has been one of the most enlightening experiences ever. It opened myself up to a realm of ROI. The ways of return of investment were so non-linear that it just keeps amazing me, to be honest. I would have never thought that publishing for free content can give back in so many ways. It's crazy. And I started this without having any background in writing. I'm coming from a design background, and I would have never thought that this would play out in this way. So thank you. Let's talk about the author of this book first, because this is a book review. It's a book review about Dan Koe's first book, The Art of Focus. You may know him already because I talk about him from time to time in my newsletters. Dan really doesn't put himself out there too much, I would say. It's more about pushing for the best way to live fully across mind, body, spirit, and work. And it paid out also for him in ways he never pictured, I guess. He's been putting work into the gym since he was 14, a habit that taught him that the long haul is worth it. At 18, he dived into freelancing and social media and business. These endeavors sharpened his skill that later clicked together. Dan's big break came with a web design agency job thanks to his coding skills and a bold move to drop out of college. He soaked up their processes and then struck out his own to build a 6-figure web design business. In 2019, the year Dan started sharing his wins and insights, dabbling in sales funnels, freelancing, weaving in self-growth tips, and advising creators. He launched Modern Mastery, a product/community where he's gearing up to help people towards self-improvement. And Twitter folks know him pretty well. He has his purpose in place, and he would rather want to be praised for his quality of work and how his mind works than any other surface-based metric like income, glamorous lifestyle, body, or possessions. He is known for teaching and embodying his 4-hour workday philosophy with a high emphasis on creating systems and automating processes. It is writing 2 hours for yourself and then working 2 hours for other people. It is between differentiating creativity and productivity. It is about consciously stopping after 4 hours. And then do active rest, like go on for a walk or go to a gym where you can ease off your mind. Another part of his philosophy is that you are the niche approach. That means doubling down on your curiosities, capitalize on their market size, and combine and synthesize the insights. That means you love cakes, write about cakes. You love women, write about women. And combine them both to write about women-shaped cakes or something like that. The digital 2-hour writer course introduced me into writing online. Since then, I earn a living from writing. Wow, I would have never thought. Because writing is incredible. I guess it worked. Like, the product is really solid, like I have to say. The 2-hour writer, I 100% recommend. Maybe I will do another review about this course too soon. But in this love letter, it's about his latest book, The Art of Focus. This book is dense, I'm telling you. Reading through it, in the beginning I had to make 1 week breaks. in between because it was just so dense in information. This book is not for the faint-hearted, and it is confrontational. And I'm a person that has been red-pilled, so to say, or awake, whatever that means, since I was 14. So I knew what was going on in the world and all the conspiracies you can think about, and how we are, in many ways, we are getting enslaved. So I can imagine it being scary if you read this book for the first time. The book embodies a unique blend of spirituality and practical advice for entrepreneurs. It's a deep dive for mastery of time and resources, shifting your mindset towards your brightest future. So the essence of this book. What sets Dan apart is differentiation to the hustle culture. His 4-hour workday is not a novel thought. It was known by the masters and artists of the past that your mind works best with an intense focus and intense rest. Inspirations and new ideas have to have space to be planted within the mind's soil. Every idea wants a body. But his approach is new in the way that he goes into the entrepreneurial space with that mindset, earns easily over 6 figures, and is going against the grain of all the hustle culture that preaches more is more. So here you can see a visual of the puzzle head. And I tried this, and what I observed in myself, because of my temperament, for me it is so important to rest. It is exponential. The more you're rested, the more your mind is clear, the better ideas come out. In the first 2 hours of your day, you get the most productive work done. If you're stressed and you work for 8 hours, you're not gonna be as productive as 2 hours in the morning. It's crazy. It is a truly healing shift of perspective, I have to say. Yes, this book has the potential to heal. From a male mind framework, this explains logically why it is important to rest like a cat and execute like a cat, sleeping all day and being active, hunting, playing for like 2 to 4 hours. The deeply spiritual nature of this book is within this message. He bridges the gap between business and spirituality through philosophy. He uses philosophy as a medium of wisdom, while wisdom is the result of experience. And experience is a prerequisite of being successful in business, of course. So, in order to be a successful businessman, you have to be wise. Also, Koe balances practical business advice with spiritual wisdom in a way, aiming to bridge the gap between the woo-woo spirituality and tangible success. He always talks about that he is interested in spirituality, has incorporated sprinkles of it here and there, but this book is deeply spiritual this time. It's a bit different from his normal YouTube content and so on. I think in these letters and YouTube videos he winded down his spirituality and translated it into business matters, because that's his purpose basically. To give anchor to the woo-woo spirituality people movement that is happening. To show the broader audience that you can be spiritual and practical. Purpose and profit. But partly he purposely winded down that channel of him because it is his top of funnel. So the readers has to get warm first to get into the more esoteric stuff, so to say. One of his customer profiles, I'm widely guessing here, is someone who is the typical analytical thinker, is intrigued by spirituality but can't get his mind around it because his logical frame, and through Dan's practical and philosophical approach finds a bridge maybe to spirituality. The male mind needs an anchor and practical reason. And this is something that I've experienced in myself. So why should a male use something like spirituality? It has to make sense. It has to have a practical implication. And our confrontation with spirituality is mostly through girls talking half-assed knowledge about astrology. What we forget though is astrology is just as hijacked and dogmatized as every other system of knowledge nowadays. As an astrologer myself, I can say astrology is a language, not a science. You wouldn't say that Spanish doesn't work because you can't speak Spanish. That doesn't make sense. Astrology is the patternization of subjective life. It tries to put life cycles and archetypical expressions in patterns. Patterns come from paternal, which is the father. With pattern recognition, intelligence is measured. So in its essence, astrology is subjective pattern recognition. Astrology is very masculine. We will get to that in another episode. So as we said, The Art of Focus is a deeply spiritual book. Not because he talks about consciousness, but he shows the sovereign way of being an entrepreneur. Diving into the book's examination of modern day enslavement and the commodification of attention, he pinpoints how we are enslaved by distractions. The physical shackles, they don't exist anymore. The shackles are mental. Our ability to focus is gone. That's why we are miserable. If you don't know what you want, you will be told what you want, and you will believe it. If you don't create a purpose, you will be assigned one. If you don't create a career, you will be assigned one. If you don't create a hierarchy of goals to invest your mental energy in, you will be assigned one. Like climbing a corporate, religious, or status ladder just to realize you've wasted 80% of your life. Dan Koe, The Art of Focus. He shifts your mindset about selflessness and healthy self-centeredness, as I call it, as keys to personal and collective liberation. It is not that selfishness leads to misery, but being selfish leads to the ability of being selfless. The novel thought of selflessness and selfishness being two poles of a spectrum creates the urgency to be both at different times, to live out this dichotomy through executing paradoxes. That is a big sign of someone who has seen the purpose of duality and can think above it, which is good. With that, we come to the next topic, which is the new regeneration of entrepreneurs. He is the channel of a new generation of entrepreneurs. Koe aims to reach a wider audience, blending practical business strategies with emerging spiritual and metaphysical concepts. To concentrate so much on your own development that you become a magnet for people to get a hold of your approach. They get intrigued by it, and this is what I meant with I could have never imagined that writing has such a non-linear ROI. Me writing about stuff, I can give my writings to other people and sell it as work. But I've already written it. I just have to rephrase it. So a content ecosystem is so valuable, it's amazing. And of course they get intrigued by this. Work less, worry less, earn more. Sounds good. This is where metaphysics and sovereignty meet. You nurture yourself, and in the process, you turn into a magnet. This is the power of the feminine approach. That's why I said it is healing. It has a regenerative component to it. Instead of doing 1,000 cold outreach emails, you rest enough and put your learnings out there through self-inquiry. After years, the people will come to you instead of you reaching out to them. That is something reflected in his ridiculously simple funnel structure too. And everything leads to the newsletter. And the newsletter is the wellspring of all content creation. It's his content machine. It's such a simple yet effective component of his strategy, and in that context he calls himself a modern Renaissance man. He is the make your products and system go full circle guy. His approach of a 4-hour workday, prioritizing rest and making your life enjoyable has a regenerative component. He is the digital renaissance man, and his book has the potential to inspire a new generation of entrepreneurs who value both purpose and profit and good rest. And we get to why that was so important for me specifically in the next section. So now we come also to the critique part. Of course, has to be. The book's structure doesn't feel like a coherent storyline of some sort. It just feels like a dry manual sometimes. It's definitely apart from the content of his newsletters, but you can also feel that this book is made from his newsletters, which is in general like 2,000 words about one topic. Maybe that's why this book feels a bit just disjointed. There's not much of a red line here to follow through. And regarding these topics, I have to be very honest with you. There is an objection of me that anybody can write a book whenever they want to, period. It isn't about age. But are you really able to write a book with 27? Dan, I think we are both born in 96. So is that gonna have really the substance that you aspire to have? Don't get me wrong, please. He's the same age as me. I wish I could be at that level to publish a book, of course. But I think the lack of red line in the storytelling is a symptom of a rushed project. Something feels rushed about this book. As if he said to himself he promised to publish a book before the age of 28 or something like that. My mind is constantly compares the situation with the example of Gordon Ryan. Gordon Ryan is one of the most successful #1 pound for pound no-gi grapplers in submission grappling. He's also, I think, 28 now. Being so overly successful in the realm of no-gi submission grappling and publishing a book about it, he also published a book. Of course, that's his right, he's highly successful. But then having constant health setbacks because he took steroids for too long and can't get into his regenerative state, being infested with loads of parasites, having stomach problems all the time, his bio said suffer in silence for years, and all he did was write about his pain. Now he's still 28, but looks like a retired old man. But he earns a shit ton of money, and I respect it, as I said. He elevated the jiu-jitsu competition game to new heights in terms of earning capabilities, which is amazing. I guess this is a strategy to retire early, and I respect it, as I said. But not everybody is built for it though, and that's the point. Obviously, again, I wish I could retire my parents at that age, but I wouldn't necessarily choose Gordon's way because I struggled with health setbacks myself for many years since my childhood, and health is one of the most important things for me. That's why this book helped me on many levels to understand how important rest is for the quality of life, my ideas, and my output. And this is also on a meta level transitioning into a critique of the whole hustle culture, but also the jiu-jitsu game. And what I've seen from how the jiu-jitsu game right now is that you should be at least training 3 times a week, otherwise you don't progress, which is ridiculous. You will also progress with 2 times a week, 1 time a week. There's so many people now getting into the spotlight talking about how training for so intense for so long fucked up their body. Do you want to do this? I don't know. I don't want to. Yeah, so as I said, and I do want to retire my parents, but not in a way that later on I am vital enough to play with my kids too. As I said, it's a long-term game. Some people live life backwards, and I was one of them. It teaches me to stay patient, to know and to step back, to do things slowly, that health issues can be deep and they need deep work for years. So I'm getting back to my point here. The rushed feeling that I get from this book is something untypical for Dan. You would think that writing a book should be the complete opposite of rushed. And maybe it was not rushed, but it feels like it for sure. And reading the bad reviews on this book, some people agree with that. All in all, I think this book gets more bad reputation than it deserves. If you're not familiar with Dan's content and you have been introduced to him through his book, this book can literally change your life. Even me, being warm with his writings, can say that it had a significant impact. It is more philosophical and spiritual than usual, and people seem to be a little bit put off by it, and I can understand. I think that is Dan's fault though, because he always vaguely mentioned that he is spiritual, but only used philosophical metaphors to underline his points on business and lifestyle design. And I want to underline this, philosophy is not the same as spirituality, there's a huge difference. Maybe if he would have got his audience more warm with his spiritual side, it would have been a smoother introduction into this side of you, Dan. Thank you for writing this book, and your impact is important for a new way of life, which has yet to come fully alive. It is a blessing and a good introduction into what has yet to come. Thank you. And thank you all for listening, and see you in the next episode.